Welcome to Rebel Speak and Be Encouraged. And I want to speak a word of encouragement in the midst of any discouragement. I want to encourage you any way that you are discouraged. And where sometimes life wants to say that its legacy is a legacy of defeat, and that's not truth. I was thinking about Noah and Noah building that ark in the midst of an evil generation. That he's building an ark towards life in the midst of humanity and all of its worst behaviors. There's something about those behaviors of our humanity that make us so complicated, right? And you see this very clearly in the prophets, where they're just, God's kind of at this wall. Like, there's no way for me to, my showing you love in the way I want to show you love has only entitled you and made you more brazen. And so now what I will do is I will let these people that you want to have relationship with you, and this is how they have relationship. You keep choosing relationship with people that are destructive, and that's what you keep saying you want. And so there's something in that where they're moving towards destruction, and everything in God doesn't want them moving towards destruction. And then God says, okay, that's what this is like. In the book of Ezekiel, it's incredibly harsh, where God's like, okay, these are your lovers, and this is how these lovers treat you. And it's deeply poignant, except that it's so offensive. You have to kind of get beyond that. But it's like, there's this point in the book of Ezekiel where God's remembering how God found this unknown, unloved, unclaimed, kind of abandoned, sees like a baby given birth that's abandoned, and how God meets this abandoned baby, and then it's in the feminine again, in her youth, God meets and adopts, if you will, and dresses. I see it a little echoey of the story of the father with the son who returns. This girl's not returning, but she's found. But again, the addressing and the adorning and the marking her as one who's very, very precious. Very, very precious. And all these gifts God gives to her, all these gifts God gives to her, all the wealth God gives her, all the beautiful tapestry, all the statements of chosenness and beauty, and then she takes those and gives them away to lovers, gives them away. Says, you're not even a prophet. You're not even a prostitute. You don't even ask for wages. You're like a desperate wife, begging, kind of using all the gifts I've given you, your children and your beauty and all the beauty in your temple, if you will, and you've taken it and squandered it to be in relationship. So now here's how this relationship will play out. You've courted destructive people, and you've chosen destructive people over me, and now those destructive people will destroy. And it's the reality of human brokenness. But all the while in that book of Ezekiel, all the while there's these moments where they're going to have a heart, right? The end goal isn't your destruction. The end goal is that you have a genuine heart for me. And how God has played this game with, not game, God has interfaced with humanity for such a long time. And God has maintained engagement with humanity throughout so much. And my encouragement to you today is maintain engagement. Maintain engagement. Wherever you are, maintain engagement. Maintain engagement. Maintain engagement. Maintain engagement. With Noah, God maintains engagement. God maintains. Here's this man in a world that's just so vile. So everything not God wanted. Everything not God wanted. But God maintains engagement with Noah, and Noah maintains engagement with God, and the story goes on. And God turns to Abram at the time, and Sarai, his wife, and he's turned actually to the father, Terah, and God maintains engagement. God's looking for a way to relationally be I keep being redundant on that word, relationship. God is seeking relationship, and God is that first mover who moves out, right, in that relationship, moves toward relationship. And in John chapter 2, It's such an amazing, the whole book of John is these juxtaposition of stories that are saying more than just the sum of the parts, right? There's this real artist in John, this not just a storyteller, but I think it's more deep and more complicated. He opens up the story of Christ's life with this, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and that all of creation is created through him. All that is has come to be, and yet they don't see him. But to those who see, right, life, right, then you've got this life and light. You've got this imagery that never goes away, life and light. And the juxtapositioning of the story of rejection and acceptance, who hears, who sees, who doesn't see, who doesn't hear, who serves the power of the Sadducees and Pharisees, who's willing to risk the ways that Christ does the healing. It puts you on the spot. Healing on the Sabbath puts you on the spot. It puts you on the spot. Do you see the healing, or do you see the serving of the powers that be, that want to confine you? Where are you willing to go? And in chapter 2, we've just, it's a third day story. It tells you it's a third day story and all that means, right? Third day resurrection, third day story. We've got the first day of kind of, I think it's Andrew, and then he gets his brother, and then, I get him all. Andrew, and then Peter, and then Andrew goes to Nathaniel, I'm pretty sure, and then, Philip. I knew there was a third one. Okay. Andrew, Peter, Philip, and then Nathaniel. And Nathaniel is cynical. Like, what good comes out of Nazareth? Nazareth is this country bumpkin. I don't know if that's, but like their accent bespeaks kind of an ignorance. And Nathaniel just says, like, what good comes out of Nazareth? But Philip says, come and see. And he goes. And then, right, Jesus has this word of knowledge, if you will. He says, I saw you. And then Nathaniel's so looking for something real that he delights. And Jesus kind of laughs at him and like, this, oh my gosh, if this can get you excited, you're gonna really be excited. You're gonna see so much more. And of course he does. And then on the third day, so first day, second day, there Jesus is with his disciples at the wedding in Cana. And his mother comes to him and says they ran out of wine. And he says, woman, and that woman, in English, it sounds kind of harsh, but it's more like, ma'am, like in the South, where they're like, yes, ma'am. It's got that kind of familial respect, right? It's a word that has kind of a familial, a lot of cultures have that. And, dear woman, why do you involve me? Jesus replied, my time has not yet come. And I've said it many times, but Mary's the right person in the culture where she's a widow and he's her eldest child and he's taking care of her. She's the right one to say, no, it has come. And how does she say it? She says to the servants there, do whatever he says. And this situation of this wedding in Cana, it's a big deal. There's a pastor in Anaheim, Keith Park, and he says that at Southland Church there, he says that they can sue. Like, if you went to a wedding, these are very arranged big events. If they run out of food and wine, you can sue for it. And he also says that having 6 of these containers, so they're hewn, they're made out of stone. They hold, I believe it's like 20 to 30 gallons each. And having 6, it's an unusual amount. Like, not sure why. There's so many of these containers. And what are they there? They're for the cleansing ritual, right? And so this whole setting apart, right? This whole, what are those there for? They're for the setting apart. What are they now for? Celebration. And all that you want to picture wine as. Wine at a wedding, missteps, a covering of missteps. Like this place of cleansing and setting apart is now a place of deliverance. And this that speaks of kind of isolation in terms of separation now speaks of inclusion. And then we see that and it's not a shout, it's not an out loud shout, right? When the master of ceremonies goes to the groom, I'm sure he's like, what are you talking about? He says, it's a multi-day ceremony, the wedding. And he's like, hey, usually you serve the best wine first. And then when everyone's inebriated, that's when you pull out the cheap stuff, but you didn't do that. And he doesn't even know, but who knows? The servants know. Who know? The disciples know. Who knows? Jesus and Mary know, and it's the first sign. And the first sign in Cana, and through it, the disciples believe. It's a testament to who Jesus is, even though they've already said yes to following him. Like they say yes, and then here's this thing for them to see. Let me show you a little bit about the yes you said. Let me show you a little bit about me. And of course, John the Baptist, what even makes Andrew follow Jesus is what John the Baptist has said about Jesus, right? That Andrew's following John the Baptist, and then John the Baptist says, no, that's him. I've been looking for him. There he is. There he is. There he is in your midst. There he is. There he is in your midst. There he is. There he is. There he is. In your midst, there he is. But Jesus isn't easy. He's not an easy, he is. It's his isness. He's worthy, but he's not easy. He's worthy, but he's not easy, because it's not easy. It's not easy. I think there's a way, the allurement of the world is always pushing an easy. And to the extent that it's difficult, many are shaken. That's what happens throughout this gospel. We see the ones that are shaken in the difficult time. They're shaken. They don't stay on. They're shaken. They don't stay engaged. They're shaken. They're shaken. The one that's healed by the pools there, he's shaken by the powers that be, the powers of the temple that be. He's shaken by them. Where the one born blind from birth, he's not shaken. He stays and hangs in there. They both are visited a second time by Jesus, but there's those that are shaken and those that hang in. And partially Jesus is shaking as well. Jesus himself shakens. That's what he does. He shakens. Who's going to stay engaged? This is hard teaching. Who's going to remain? Peter, where else would we go? Who else? What other voice are we going to follow? There's nowhere else. Peter understands that. So there's these shakenings that are tricky and difficult. Who are you going to remain engaged with? And so we have this kind of beautiful moment where the disciples see, and then they go up to Jerusalem, even though it's kind of geographically down, but it's the capital and it's on a hill. I've read different things about it, but they go up to Jerusalem for a spiritual time there. And let's see, when it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, I should know that, Jesus went up to Jerusalem, and there he goes into the temple courts. He found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and other sitting at tables exchanging money. So immediately he sees the selling of animals and the sheep and the cattle and the doves and the money changers, and he takes them on. So he made a whip out of cords and drove all from the temple area, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. He sees, and then it tells you exactly. He sees it, and then he removes it. He sees the animals, he sees the money changers in their tables, and he sees the doves. He removes the animals. He turns over, he scatters their coins. I mean, he really is aggressive, right? And he'll later say, this is zeal for my house. There's an aggressiveness in Jesus at this moment. There's an aggressiveness against this situation. He's disestablishing faulty worship, right? It's actually preventing right worship. Okay, right? Exclusionary. There's an exclusionary. And then the one people he talks to are those that are selling doves, which has always been fascinating to me, because what? The doves are for the least of these. This is really the worst of the worst. That you are marking up the price, that which is meant, that, right, his parents offered doves, right? Those that are not well off, not of means, the dove is what you offer. And he said to those who sold doves, he said, get these out of here. How dare you make my Father's house into a market? Like, there's something about those that are selling doves that are behaving especially bad. Especially bad. Who you are betraying is especially, the least of these, that betrayal is especially bad. Shame on you. And then the disciples have this, we know they're there because they remember, zeal for my house shall consume me, where they're quoting a psalm there. There's a way that humanity in many ways is the problem for Jesus. And in the book of John, there's a way that we see that those that are able to say yes and receive, able to say, the woman at the well, yes and receive, and those that harden their heart and can't accept, don't want to accept. I want to just speak this out here. Now, while he was in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, many people saw the miraculous signs he was doing and believed in his name. So there he is. And one of the ways that he speaks of who he is through the miraculous signs. There's a way, and it's the issue, well, by what power? By what authority? That this is huge in the book of John. By what power? What authority? What is the engine? Like, what is the, right? What is the engine behind you, Jesus? Is it Beelzebub? Is it God? Is it Yahweh? What's behind you? But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, for he knew all men. He did not need man's testimony about man, for he knew what was in a man, or what was in a man's heart. And there's a way that as we are dealing and engaging with humanity, and right after this, then comes the story of Nicodemus, and what Nicodemus sees and doesn't see, what he's willing to not only see, what he's willing to, he's drawn to Jesus so much, but he wants to come to Jesus by night. He's not willing to be completely immersed in who Jesus is in a way that, right, Peter and Andrew, followers, are saying, no, we stand by this man. We stand by him at the wedding. We stand by him at the overturning of the tables in the temple. We stand by him. There's a way that Nicodemus is saying, I want to know you on my own terms, and that doesn't work. And Jesus uses this imagery of being born again. You're either fully of me, you either are fully of me, or it doesn't work. You can't kind of pick and choose. And when you're fully of me, let me say it's costly. But in the midst of it, there's that, right, this thing that says, no, Jesus knew the hearts of men. That as Jesus is engaged, as Jesus moves into the story and engages with humanity, he fully knows. He's not holding back. He's not wishing. He's looking for those that are saying yes. Right? That I'm looking for those who are mine. Those that are mine say yes to me. Those that are mine say yes to me. Elsewhere we hear of shaking off the dust. Those that are saying no, those that are your enemies, those that are judging you, those that are precluding you, those that are not letting you in, those that are not interested, those that want to punish you, those that want to hate you. They will hate you for my name. Those that hate you. Like, what do you do with that? Like, wow, I'm not sure I signed up for being hated. Those that are against you. Those that mock you. Say unkind things. Pick on you for exactly who you are, right? That's the sign of the enemy. He picks on you exactly, specifically, because specifically as you are who you are. That's the cruelty of the enemy. He hates you specifically for who you are, for how you do what you do, as you do what you do, because of who you are. And there can be this sense like, wow, God, this is kind of heavy. And Jesus knows. Jesus knows when and how it's heavy. Mm-hmm. Jesus knows what it's like to have friends that aren't really your friends. Jesus knows what it's like to have people that kind of want to use you, like, ooh, I like these gifts about you. I like these parts of you, but I don't want the whole you. I don't want all of you. I just want the bits that interest me. I'm not really that into you. I just want the bits of you that interest me. Jesus knows, you shake that dust off. Jesus knows what it's like to take a conversation just further and further and further to the truth, till the woman at the well saying, no, you are the truth. I see you, right? We see her saying yes to who Jesus is. We see her engaging with Jesus fully. A man who shouldn't be speaking to her, shouldn't be talking to her. A man that his disciples are like, why is he talking to her? Like that, we don't do that. Jesus does. He does that. He does it. He engages and he watches her engage with him. He watches it. He watches. He watches. He pushes Nicodemus in chapter 3. He pushes Nicodemus. We've got the beloved words there in chapter 3. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Are you going to engage with this? For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe stands condemned already. Jesus has walked into a condemned world. He has not believed in the name of God, God's one and only Son. This is the verdict. Light has come into the world. There's that John imagery of light. Light has come into the world, but men love darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. They are at home in the darkness. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives by the truth, there it is, love, light, and truth. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light, so that it may be seen plainly that what he has done has been done through God. The tension is in the light, and the tension is in the truth, and therefore the tension is in Jesus. Jesus is not a Hallmark card, He's not a Heller Steiner Rice poem, and I'm not against Helen Steiner Rice poem. If you go and you try to look for something really sweet of Jesus, it's hard. You have to kind of cut away things, because there's a way that Jesus is always pushing truth, always pushing light, always in that pushing invitation. And as that invitation is pushed, then there's places that, right, we're expelled from the temple. We're expelled, that as Jesus speaks truth into our life and invites us into the light, invites us into the life, invites us into the truth, then the places that don't want the truth, that don't want the light, don't want the love, sorry, the places that don't want the light, life, or truth, expel you. Expel your worth. Expel your story. Expel your meaning. Oh, I thought you were this, but you're not. Oh, I thought you were on our team, but you're not. Oh, I thought you were one of us, but you're not. And there's this expelling. And for the person who doesn't, like, everything in me doesn't want to be expelled, you're in a difficult place. You're in a difficult place. Because you will be expelled from the places that do not want the light, that do not want the life, that do not want the truth. They're going to demand. It's the nature of the enemy. I'm going to demand an account of you right now. Give me an account of you right now. I'm demanding it right now. And you're thinking, why are you demanding this right now? Because it's what it does. It says right now, who are you siding with? Well, I'm siding with Jesus. Okay. It's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. Where we have authority, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. And the drawer of the line is, in many ways, it's not Jesus. The drawer of the line is the one that says, no, this is going to cost you. Because it works so often for the drawer of the line to draw the line. So many will say, no, I won't cross that line. No, I'll stay with you. I don't want to be expelled from the temple, to use that kind of image. I don't want to be expelled from these friendships. I don't want to be expelled from belonging. I don't want to be expelled. And so the ones that will expel you from belonging draw the line and say, where do you stand? I want to know where you stand on this. I want to know right now. Are you for us or against us? And Jesus says you can't stand on that side of that line. You can't, Nicodemus, you can't. And so I just feel like there's lots of entanglement. And I just want to say, as there's entanglement, remain engaged. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the way the enemy is defining you. Don't be afraid of his voice. And don't be afraid of the price he's telling you you're going to pay. Keep your eyes right on Jesus. Keep your heart right and your mind right on his goodness. And it says, neither height nor depths, neither height, I'm a little chaotic today, but neither height nor depths, neither life nor death, these things cannot separate you. In the midst of the entanglement, remain engaged with the source of life. And you're gonna, like, have you ever been caught in a wave where you don't know, well, you're just caught up in a wave and it's a little overwhelming? You're in the midst of something and it's overwhelming because what could happen in this moment is threatening and frightening. And I just want to say there's something in the world right now where there's a lot of that kind of entanglement, and you're kind of looking for your moorings, and you're like, I need to know who I am. And in that there's some estrangement as well, like things that you have been known by and how you've known yourself, and now there's an estrangement as you are kind of in relationship with Jesus, and the cost, and the world is turning up the cost on that. It's turning up the cost on that. It's wanting to draw a line and force you to make a choice that's lesser. And you and I, we have to stay engaged with Jesus, engaged with his goodness, engaged with his kindness, engaged with his love, even as there's, like, you're in the, I don't know, the wash cycle. Like, I don't, my moorings are not quite right now, but God, because you say so, therefore I will. Because you say so, I will move forward. I'm moving forward in a way that it doesn't fully make sense. I'm not using my mind to know how and when to engage. I'm using that whole, right, my spirit, the whole heart, mind, spiritual sight connection. And God, I'm moving towards the things you're saying. And I know that you're going to get me in a good place. I know, God, that this is the path towards stabilization. I will be stabilized. This isn't just chaos. I'm not in the midst of a story with a chaotic ending. I'm getting somewhere that's sound. And I want to just speak courage to you. I want to speak the logic of God's goodness into your mind and your heart. I want to speak the stability of God's kindness. And where the world is just coming up against you and up against you and up against you, Jesus has made a way through it. And the hearts of humanity are not all that we wish that they were. The human heart can be very mean and cruel. It can be intentionally mean and cruel. It can be reactively mean and cruel. But in Christ, there's only light. There's only light and life and truth. And that light shines in the darkness, even as the darkness hasn't understood it. And God has a very clear path for you. Mm-hmm. Part of your yes to Christ is Christ's yes to you. He came to that which is his own. There's a path. There's a path forward for you that you can trust. God has made a way forward for you. And everything right now might be saying chaos and confusion. And I just want to say, just ahead, like even in the midst of the chaos and confusion, there is this peace that's the presence. There's the weight of God's goodness, right? Like that, like those weighted blankets, but way better. There's order, and there's purpose, and there's meaning, and there's chosenness. God has chosen you. You are chosen by name. In your creation, right? Psalm 139, you are knit together. You are chosen. There's no random human person. Every human being is spoken into life by God. There's nothing random about your story. And I want to say even there's nothing random about the difficult and miserable places. As you are in a place of misery right now, as you are in a place of despair, I want to say to you, you're chosen in that moment. You're chosen in that moment. Because God is with you, there is purpose and meaning. Because of who God is. In the midst of your loss, in the midst of your sense of even worthlessness, like something about you feels worthless, You are chosen. And because God spoke your name into creation, because God has purposed you, because of that, because of God has dialogued, spoken your life into existence, God is with you. And there is found meaning and there is found purpose. You are known. Hairs on your head, that's God's interest in you. God's interested. And as you're saying, God, I don't think I can get through this, God's saying, I want to say this, son, daughter, I've got you. We're getting through this because of who I am in you. And because the purpose I've placed in you, who I am in you, and who you are in me. And what Christ has opened, that we are one, right? We are one in Christ. We are, and I want to use a double entendre. We're one, but we've won, W-O-N, one. You have won. You have won. Christ in you. Christ in you is winning the story through your life. And God is bringing you home, out of the chaos, into meaning and into purpose. And I want you to awaken your expectation of God's goodness, meaning, and purpose, light, life, and truth. That God has a song to be sung through you. And the world will want you not to sing that song. The world's going to put up things that are going to say it's too costly. Don't go over. Don't. And I just want to encourage you, walk into that persistent love of Christ. Walk into the truth. Walk into the light. Walk into the love. And you're going to find your feet are stable and you are secure. And as you persevere, as you remain engaged, you're going to know the love of the Father alive in you. And you're going to find your mouth speaking truth into a world hungry for such. Be blessed, be encouraged.